My name's Carl and I'm doing a few videos that talk about how we make music and some of the kind of mindful things we can do when creating music. In the last video, I discussed talking about caring for your consciousness. So in a nutshell, what I was talking about was kind of the things we can do sort of behind the scenes that help prepare us when we're about to create music or about to work in the field of music and sound, how we look after some of our more subconscious decision making and some of the things that have an effect on our mood and on our emotions. In this video, I'm going to be talking more about being present and connecting with the things that are happening around us. One really important skill to practice is the ability to pause, to stop and listen to the things around us. So some of the sounds and some of the small details, things that happen all the time, by picking up on those details and stopping, it allows us to connect with reality a little bit. What I want to do is talk about the practice of field recording and a few little tips and tricks that I've learnt that ultimately create better recordings, but also create a better sense of emotion when you're in places and listening to things. It's a kind of general mindful and meditation technique that before you do some meditation or some yoga or some of these kind of relaxing things, or even going to sleep, it's the importance of breathing, and that applies to music making as well. If you can start a session by taking a few moments to stop and pause and do some deep breath exercises, it helps set you up and helps get you ready to go. And it's not complicated. There's tons of stuff out there if you want to learn breathing techniques, but it's generally slowing down, taking a deep breath in and holding it, and then letting the air out again through your mouth. It can be vocal with this as well. It's kind of like yoga breathing, really. But what it does, I'm doing it, you can do it longer than this. I'm just doing it because of the pace of me discussing it with you. Yeah, it really settles you down. Those kind of moments of, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this quickly, it just kills any of those thoughts for a moment, and it brings you right back to this point in time right now and what your intentions are to do. So if that is stood in a park and you want to listen to what that soundscape is, just step for a minute, stop, just breathe 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You can do it longer if you feel comfortable, but it often doesn't need much longer than that. And that will prepare you for listening to what's going on around you. So slowing down and witnessing the emotions in the sounds around you is dead important. I think for this, I thought about how to do this, because with these videos, obviously talking to camera and I'm talking about listening. So I think for this next section, I might just fade the video out and just listen to my voice. Things can be distracting when you're trying to listen, and just for this next section while I talk, I'm just going to fade the video out and have a look around where you are. Try and feel present in the place that you're at and you're watching this video. But just listen to this and have a look out your window and, or pay attention to what's around you. It doesn't normally take weeks and weeks of time to create good music. And by that I mean writing and producing music. The best things come from moments of inspiration. And it's common to hear musicians say that the main ideas or fruition of their music was created in half an hour or so. But getting to that point of inspiration takes time. We need to understand what to look out for too, as they can just as easily pass us by. You may already be tuned in and producing elements of music, but you're just not resonating or recognizing that you're actually doing it. So that's why this is the need to discuss pausing. The world and events and life are seemingly continuously moving. So it's a bit like being in a platform computer game, like the side scroller types, where it's pushing you along. And if you stop, you're going to get squished, or it's going to push you onto some deadly spikes or something. But I think when it comes to looking at sound and music, it's good to remember, in its essence, sound is just like the displacement of movement and air over time. It's less like one of these side-scrolling games, but it's more like one of these worlds that you can freely wander around. So I just want to share some thoughts on creating soundscapes, as that's what I primarily create for work, but I think this translates to most musical styles. Sounds work best when they're contextual to the place they exist. So when I write music, I try to design in and factor where they'll be heard. It could be, a crowd in a Berlin techno club, or it could be the living room on a TV commercial, or a wakeful dream on a pair of headphones. Music is made from layers of sound or note intervals, melodies and rhythms. What we can do is stop to acknowledge the sounds around you and the patterns they make. It could be the traffic, the birds or the wind. When you learn to pause and bring your attention to these sound elements, ask yourself compositional and mix questions like, what part of the frequency spectrum are those birds probably singing in? Or, what's the relation and the rhythm of that truck idling? How far is that kettle boiling sound, that noise, panned to the left of where I'm hearing? Try and relate these sounds back around you as if you were having to recreate them. This is sonic perspective. Sometimes when we focus on creating music, we get so close to the particular sound sources that we forget its place within the context of where it will be heard by other people. So quite often we're making it just for our own enjoyment, and in that case we have a pretty fixed perspective. But even then we can alter the context for this process and redesign how we can hear the sound. For example, playing an acoustic guitar around a campfire will sound and translate very differently to playing an electric guitar in a music studio. There's just different emotions which are created from the context of where you're playing the same instrument. And the acoustics will be different. The environment and background sounds will impart a sense of place on the recording. And all these things might alter the performance and delivery. So some of the notes and melodies that you're playing, even though you might have the same intention, or you might be covering a song by someone else, that context will change the music. So this kind of perspective can be used creatively and shouldn't be forgotten as part of the music making process. So if you're programming a drum beat, writing a chord progression, or patching with a modular synth, try pausing for a moment to reflect on where you are. and how that might translate to what you're hearing or feeling. And as an experiment, next time you're making some music or sound, try moving to a different space and see if you can recreate what you were previously doing and notice how it feels or sounds different. If I'm doing nature sound recordings, I'll record, the same place from different points. I might stick a microphone closer to the trees where some birds are, or further away from a stream. And those different perspectives change the feeling of the soundscape recordings quite considerably. So if we start doing that with the individual elements and parts which make up modern music, you can see the potential and possibilities for how it can really shift the mood and feel of the recordings you make and performances. One of the techniques I use when field recording relies heavily on this ability to pause and think about perspective. Unlike a camera, framing audio soundscapes often quite involves moving around a lot in the creation of a soundscape. There's no magical zoom lens microphone equivalent, really. When we pause to listen outside in the field, our main techniques are our decision to alter our mix by physically moving with our microphone or ears closer or further to the sources of sounds. So you can try this out. Just move closer to one sound source and something will get louder as other sounds fall off and become less clear. And that's a really lovely technique to use in all types of music when it comes to the mix. It's this balance of musical parts and sounds and textures which quite often creates the sense of mood and tone of a piece of music. And try experimenting by just really pulling and pushing levels of things in and out on a mix, and be creative with that. As you spend more time out in nature, I call this active listening. So it's exercising your ears, exercising your ability to listen. You'll learn how the feelings of sounds appearing and disappearing can translate to musical arrangements, and it can take you on a journey with sound. So pause, do that slow breathing exercises, be present in the place and context where you are. Think about how that place can translate to the piece of sound or music or what you're hearing, and witness the emotions in the sounds that you're hearing right this second. Maybe together we can let music, sound, nature become a sort of sacred time to sort of rest and relax and reflect on the world and things going on around us. Hopefully that made sense. Yeah, so this ability to witness this world that's happening around you, being present, this translates obviously really well to sort of like the recording process and sounds. But what about synthesis and electronic music, and where we've got complete control of everything on our laptops, or on the different machines and things we might be using to write this more modern music? Well, I think the next really important component of this in relation to going out and listening to the world is to let go and embrace some of the chaos that electronic machines, if you're lucky, can give you. It's the ability to have maybe like an electronic machine take you on a journey, like mentally. And I really enjoy using machines and synths and drum machines and these more electronic instruments, as well as acoustic stuff and recordings. But the magic for me with these machines is the ability to listen to them when they're just doing their own thing and they're just, you know, potentially going randomly somewhere with a sound. Cool skill to learn is just to let that stuff happen or encourage it to happen. And that's where the, you know, all kinds of magic can come from. Some of the machines I really enjoy working with are ones that I can have this sort of call and response relationship with. So it's the practice of having the machine do something and then you potentially working with it to kind of shift it or encourage it in a certain way to kind of go off in its own journey again and re-present to you what it's doing. And that sort of relationship is really, really cool. And different machines and interaction designs and the way they're designed by engineers, some of them encourage this behavior and some don't. And I'd say if you are a synth enthusiast, maybe have a look at what you have and what features have been designed into them to allow that kind of relationship where they can challenge you. And as a sound designer and musician, that's just another really cool thing to play with. And I think mentally being able to kind of let go of that control and hand that over to the machine, it says a lot about, you know, the ability to kind of relax. And this sort of push-pull relationship is super cool. That to me is a really important like character trait of the music or the style of music that I create, whether it's commercial client work or for my own personal exploration and expression. But it's the dog groaning in the background at me trying to sound profound, but it's that playfulness which I really want to tap into. And I think playing with machines and playing with those relationships and being playful in the environments that I go out to record things at or the techniques that I use, that playfulness, that silliness in a way captures a sort of youthful energy and worryless approach to doing things which on paper and quite a lot of the time commercially for me is stuff that I really do have to worry about because it's, you know, it's very important, responsible work I'm doing. But to be able to use these little techniques to inject that sort of playfulness into the process is like a really valuable trick. And yeah, never take music making too seriously. So yeah, you can take all this stuff I'm saying with a pinch of salt as well, but I just encourage you to be silly with it and, you know, make it do the most wonkiest, unexpected, experimental things you can do. And if it makes you happy or gives you some kind of joy, you know, or really pulls emotionally at something, that's probably to do with going into it vulnerably and, you know, that silliness and not thinking about it too analytically is, you know, a super smart way to kind of generate, you know, really cool emotional like ideas and recordings and music. That's it for this video. I just wanted to just talk about this briefly. I don't fully understand it myself, but I think, you know, I'm noticing it in myself and other people I talk to, but I think the last few months there is a sense of like burnout and, you know, everything that we're going through is exhausting and relentless and tedious, and, you know, it can be really tough, you know, just to sort of to get that, you know, keep that motivation going. You know, it's wearing us all down. And yeah, I just want to sort of say that I'm saying this as someone who's not kind of preaching and going, oh, I feel great and wonderful. I'm struggling, I think, as much as everyone else is. And probably part of the reason I'm making these videos is to sort of feel like I can help other people. But yeah, there's tons of stuff out there on how to deal with burnout. It's a common thing in the workplace. But as musicians, I know that a lot of us work alone and perhaps don't have that support of working in sort of traditional company structures, but use terminology like burnout. So yeah, just check in with yourselves, and there's lots of information out there. Just look up that particular terminology. It's all quite common sense stuff, about getting good sleep, exercising, getting organised with things. If you sort of kind of getting tunnel vision or looking at things negatively, or there's kind of conflicts you're having, or you're withdrawing yourself from conversations, and it's difficult at the moment because we're living connected by social media and news and phones because of the situation we're in, when really we just should be socializing in spaces and going to gigs and going to the pub and all these parts of normality and the social stitching that kind of keeps us working properly. So yeah, just wanted to mention that if you are feeling that things are getting a bit too much, see if there's any extra tips and things you can find, and add anything in the comments as well below this in case anyone's got any useful websites or people to check out. I've definitely got another video to touch on some more bits and bobs on this, so subscribe so that you know when the next one's out, like this so more people know about it, and yeah, see you soon.